Bono or Bjork? If you were in business, who would you prefer to be? To begin with, one is Irish and one is Icelandic. What is the difference between Ireland and Iceland, apart from one letter? Ireland is in the European Union, but Iceland is not. Ireland is part of the single market, which was set up in 1992. Iceland is a member of the European Economic Area. This means that although Iceland can trade in the single market freely, like an EU member state, it has no say in changes to single market rules and laws. Ireland is a decision maker, Iceland is a decision taker. If a foreign company wants to create a European headquarters, Ireland is an attractive candidate as it is part of a union of 26 other countries. Each of them is a gateway to an enormous market of 513 million consumers. Irish companies can benefit from economies of scale by having such a huge market at their disposal. So if a music album is produced in Ireland, it can be exported to 26 other countries in the European Union without having to pay any additional costs. Iceland is not as attractive for foreign direct investment because the Icelandic government cannot change or influence single market regulations, nor has it the voice and influence from which Ireland benefits as an EU member state. Irish companies can also sign up for the European Company Statute, which gives companies the option of forming a European company, an advantage not available to Icelandic companies. And should there be a European scheme to bail out certain member states who are struggling to pay their debts, Ireland would qualify, but Iceland would not. Although there are huge advantages to the single market, some barriers still do remain. Most firms believe that these are due, at least in part, to the manner in which rules and regulations are applied. Many of the obstacles are related to compliance with national specifications for goods and services, VAT systems, and discriminatory behaviour by public authorities. However, the consensus seems to be that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Only members of the EU can be in the Eurozone. Overall, there are 16 Eurozone members. Being part of the Eurozone means that monetary policy, for example interest rates, are decided by the European Central Bank, which is based in Frankfurt and is headed by its president, Jean-Claude Trichet, and which is independent of the political influence of the member states. Ireland is represented at the ECB's Committee of Central Bankers by the Governor of the Irish Central Bank, John Hurley. The ECB's control of monetary policy has no effect on the country's government spending or on its power to determine tax rates. These are issues for the Irish government to decide. In the ECB, Ireland has the same voting weight as France and Germany. Foreign investors also favour Ireland having the euro, as currency fluctuations are not such an important issue with exchange rate certainty. Recently, the president of the ECB, Jean-Claude Trichet, said the financial crisis is demonstrating that in turbulent waters it is better to be in a large, solid and steady ship rather than on a small vessel. The large ship that is the EU offers us low interest and inflation rates in these challenging times, meaning that there is still a positive business environment. Iceland is now attempting to join both the EU and the Eurozone as it wants to be part of the larger ship. One of the benefits of the single market is being part of a shared international trading group composed of the EU member states. As a small open economy which benefits from increased trade, this is exactly what Ireland needs. Since its creation in 1957, the European Commission has been given the responsibility by EU member states to negotiate on their behalf in international trade talks. This common commercial policy, as it is called, is a tool used by Ireland to boost its power in international trade. It means that, in some areas, Ireland trades as a group alongside the other member states in organisations such as the World Trade Organization. As Ireland trades both bilaterally on its own with other countries and multilaterally as part of the EU, it has double the clout of Iceland, which only trades bilaterally and with the EFTA, which includes Switzerland, Norway and Liechtenstein. The Lisbon Treaty makes some important changes to EU trade policy. The most important change is an increased role for the European Parliament, which the European Commission will be obliged to consult and keep informed during negotiations on trade agreements. The European Parliament will also have the very important power of being able to approve or reject the final deal. This means directly elected MEPs will have more power in EU trade policy for the first time. The Lisbon Treaty also provides for co-decision in adopting the EU laws that the European Commission will draft to provide for the implementation of the final agreement. This means that the Council and the European Parliament will have the power to shape the content of these laws. The Lisbon Treaty provides for more competences to be given to the EU in terms of the areas that international agreements cover, including all services trade, trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, and foreign direct investment. However, national vetoes remain in areas where the EU does not have the authority to act in trade deals. The Lisbon Treaty expressly excludes the use of trade policy to expand EU powers. In terms of Europe in the world, the Lisbon Treaty gives the European Union a single coherent voice in world trade talks, which, for example, could enhance the possibility of agreeing a world trade deal. It allows countries like Ireland the possibility to punch above their weight at international trade negotiations. While Iceland only has its own voice in world trade talks, Ireland has its voice plus those of all the other member states. In the EU, each member state has different corporate tax rates. Ireland's corporate tax rate, for example, is 12.5%. Others have higher rates. For example, France has a rate of 33.3% and the UK has 28%, or lower rates, as in the case of Estonia. A low corporate tax rates give countries a competitive advantage in terms of competing for foreign direct investment. Some member states would like to have one common consolidated tax base, or CCCTB as it is known, for companies operating in the EU to create a level playing field, but no definitive proposal has ever been put forward despite a lot of debate. The reason why there is a debate about the CCCTB is because it would lead to the simplification of the tax base for multinational companies operating in different member states. However, if any such proposal were to be made, it would be very unpopular in several member states, including Ireland, who fear that it is a Trojan horse for a unified EU corporate tax rate. It is therefore not part of the Lisbon Treaty. Indeed, the Lisbon Treaty allows Ireland to block any such proposals by using its veto. In an attempt to allay concerns about preserving Ireland's tax sovereignty, which arose during the referendum campaign on the Lisbon Treaty, the Taoiseach Brian Cowan sought assurances from the other heads of state and government in the EU at the December 2008 summit, and the EU member states agreed that provisions would be inserted into the treaty to protect Ireland's sovereignty in taxation. The Lisbon Treaty makes three important institutional changes in the area of economic governance. First, the independence of the ECB is reiterated. Second, the ECB is listed as an official EU institution. Third, the Eurogroup, which includes all finance ministers of the Eurozone countries, is given formal recognition. We have outlined the difference in doing business in the EU for someone like Bono or Bjork. Irish business benefits from the single market, the single currency, the ability to attract foreign direct investment, and benefit from an increased weight in trading negotiations worldwide. Icelandic business, however, has not been as fortunate. Iceland's banking system collapsed in October 2008, causing its currency, the krona, to plummet and prompting the government to request a $10 billion emergency loan from the International Monetary Fund and several European countries. As a result, the krona is barely traded now and the banks cannot borrow abroad. The crisis has stunned a nation that enjoyed one of the world's highest living standards during the stock market boom. The current financial crisis is a global problem, not just a European or Icelandic problem. Ireland, as a member state of the European Union, has a buffer which protects it in turbulent times, whereas Iceland is currently swimming alone in the Atlantic. Icelandic singer Bjork recently said that joining the European Union was the only way forward for her economically troubled country. The title of Bjork's album, Possibly Maybe, says it all about Iceland joining the EU, whereas Bono might respond, "Get your boots on." Now that we've shown you the difference between Ireland and Iceland, maybe it's time to rethink the question, who would you prefer to be in business terms, Bono or Bjork?